Hi, I'm Ztokdo. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about some things with comp stomps and just what they are and why you're doing them. A lot of the casual players, they're the ones that are doing these comp stomps. The game speed right now is about 1.5. I'm doing that just to try and I'll even go up to 2.0, just kind of introduce things. The footage is about an hour long, so this is going to be about, if I'm running 2.5, it's about half hour's worth of video. But I just want to kind of take time to go over it. You don't really have bot stomps in Stormgate, and people have tried them, but like it doesn't work near as well. So just want to focus a bit on some of the reasons why people are doing this and what things to notice. The first thing to notice about it is that the comp stomp players they 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 barely respond uh, to anything the AI is doing. And that's kind of the first thing that I think is important to know about these. If you look at from my perspective, I play at like 200 to 400 APM depending on what I'm trying to do, and so they what I'm doing is much different from what they're doing. I'm trying to deny the scouting because if my teammates go Stargates, then they'll go, units that are anti-Stargate, whatever. My teammates, they're just literally just building basic units. There's no thought as to why they're doing what they're doing. And this is kind of the second thing is that people want to constantly be doing stuff, and the range, APM range, is mostly 30 to 80 APM. Uh, and this is just kind of a theme for most of the players. Is that people like the feel of just pressing the buttons and kind of in general doing stuff, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. You can see that I'm looking at my teammates. I'm looking at the army comp. Um, most people don't really do that. People in general, they don't scout the enemy army composition, and they mostly the and what they mostly do is they mostly just build their favorite units. Um, and so those are two additional things I think are good to kind of get a view of when you're watching this. You can see how I'm trying to do a lot of things to track how the army is moving, and even seeing somebody build sensor towers is kind of unique, for this. For me, I like to try and keep pressure on the map all the time, but you can see that like in general, people don't keep any pressure at all in terms of what's happening in the game. And this is so in this game, right? Like I'm looking at it, I didn't see many immortals. I see a lot of the units in the front. I know that I'm gonna have to fight against a Zerg and a Protoss mostly is are the two armies I'm gonna be fighting the most. So for me, I just like having Ravagers. Ravagers also allow me to knock down the buildings rather quickly. And so this it's a style that I like. I just like to use the Ravagers a lot in bot stomps. Um, and it lets me really watch what's going on and have control. I like to split my armies. Most people don't split at all. People like to just siege some units, then F2 the rest, or siege some units or towers, um, then F2 the rest. And I think that that's an important thing to understand about how people are playing, because there's not a lot of static defense in Stormgate. Um, so so when we're talking about their experience, we see this. I'm trying to. One of the reasons why like I like to be the aggressor, is because I don't like to fight a big wall of army together because in general my teammates aren't reacting. But people instead they like to get to maxed, and so um, and most of them wait until max to do much of anything, and that's kind of another thing that's kind of key to understand. Um, and when we're talking about then, in this game, he's already throwing away his workers because he's already at a high supply, and he's just literally trying to get. He wants to have that number on the screen that says his max supply is really big, and they're not really even playing RTS in the same sense that like other people are playing, the like competitive players are playing it, because competitive players are kind of doing what I'm doing, where you're trying to look at the comps and just decide what's the easiest way to deal with whatever's going to come, and how do you try and maximize your pressure on the map, and there's like a lot of questions about what you're trying to do. And you can see this guy, he just wants to max out on Thors. That's all he wants to do, and the other guy just wants to max out on battle cruisers. So for this guy, if you for the two players that I'm playing with, if you were to ask them about their feelings about their play experience, I mean, I would say that for them, the the player in teal, he's going to say he didn't have much fun because when he was playing, he didn't. He didn't get to the point where he was maxed, and he didn't really get to the point where he was moving out with a big army, so he didn't enjoy at all that comp stomp. And if you ask the other guy, he'll say, "Oh yeah, I got to max Thors. I had fun that game because I got to my big old army. I got to move out. I got to kill lots of things with it. I got my sensor towers on the map." And he's like, "Yeah, that was a fun game." And that's kind of the one of the trade-offs. Um, and in twos, in three verse AI tends to have more bad experiences, but is less predictable. And two verse AI is more stable. Um, the twos and twos attract higher level players, and I've just noticed this just from playing. Um, and so I think that needs to be said a bit, um, because because there are very different types of players that are playing these things, and for us to treat the two sets of players together, I think that it's not really fair to try and lump them together in the same group. Here, you'll notice that I adjusted to what my teammates are doing. So in this case, I saw my teammates basically the guy in red. I saw him basically move out and try to do something, and so I go and I instantly support him. And you'll notice that again, the guy in teal, zero response. And for me, I'm just trying to have a bit of fun. For me, the Lean Bane micro is pretty fun, so I'm just trying to do that pretty fun. But also, I'm trying to not push it too hard, because if I push it too hard, there's a chance that they attack on the other side of the map and we just die. Earliest attacks tend to come like at 4:30 if it's like a Protoss Blink build from the AI, and then kind of the next timing is like 7 minutes, and the next timing is like um, the it is like eight and a half minutes. So the timings at like 3:30, 4:30, 7 minutes, 8:30, 10 minutes. Those timings match roughly timings in real games. And I wanted to make this point kind of in general because I think it's worth saying this. So we're gonna do that. So here's my next point is that the timings that the AI attacks, the AI tends to sit on two bases for a really long time, but their timings tend to really match what you see in real games. So playing the bots actually somewhat helps you because you can try to min max and have big armies around those timings that also you're in general going to be using in real games. So that's one of the best things about the design of the Blizzard co-op matches. Here in this case, right, like I'm getting worried that I need to um, have a big army around that 8:30 mark. So like I'm already spamming roaches and trying to run by and do additional damage. The way that I can jump in and do damage while red is in there is I have Banelings and Ravagers. The Ravagers nuke the buildings, and the Banelings nuke the worker line. You saw how quickly I basically got in there and nuked a whole worker line, and there was no response to the AI. That's stuff that like I do in bot matches that I don't do as much in real matches because people are better at scouting the army and not watching that. Um, and and uh, and so I think here it's also it's also kind of worth doing it during doing two VAI games. So we'll just do this and remove some of the things. So this is kind of a very typical 2VAI feeling game, especially with Protoss. This is like one of the most popular builds. Um, so big super units are way more popular um, among among bot players. Um, and and I think that that's something else that's worth mentioning here is you look at this guy and his build. His build is two pylons, and then he builds a forge, and then he builds a gateway, and he has like no way that he's really taking anything on the map. He's not really responding to anything. He's gonna just build cannons, and the cannons, the timing on the cannons, you never know when they're gonna come out. He might just take three more bases and then build the cannons, or he might do something else. In this case, you can see that he built a pylon out front, so he already has three pylons, and his mindset is literally just I'm gonna just sit and turtle and build super units sometime. My adjustment here is very simple. In general, you get the creep tumor a bit faster if the Protoss expands. And I see there that the and I see there that when I scout, I see a bunch of Zerglings, which means they're going to fight. But just going back to one of the things that I said before, you know, when 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 we scouted it, my teammate he didn't respond at all to anything that had happened, and so I created like this little funnel, this little choke that I basically funnel everything to, and and my teammate literally didn't do anything. And how does he respond to like what he's seeing? Well, now all of a sudden, now that all the attacking and everything's been happened, now he decides that now is the time to build the cannons. even though they don't do anything at this point in the game anymore. The AI already is getting out upgrades, which is one of the things that the upgrades are meant to do. Is upgrades break static defense in the in Starcraft 2, and top bar abilities are what break static defense in Stormgate. So you, as you clear camps, that makes it so it's a lot easier to clear things. Here in this, I have to ask, what is the timing that I need to be strong? I want to go check the tech of the Protoss mostly. The Zerg, that since they have Ling Bane is just it's not very like even if they have a lot of it, just a few roaches tends to beat everything. So when it's just straight gateway units, Hydralisks actually do really well against it, especially on defense. So that's kind of what I'm trying to set up for is just having Hydralisks, and then for a fight that comes afterwards, I'm trying to have basically some form of roaches to deal with everything else, the Zerg in essence. So you can see again, my teammate hasn't built anything. He hasn't responded. He's literally done nothing to help deal with what's going on in the game. So I'm just trying to pull pull the AI back towards the cannons. Try not to lose too many workers. And here I'm just sitting by his cannons, and he's literally done nothing that's helped me other than build those cannons, and they're even in a bad spot. So I have to work around the idea that my teammate that's all that he offers are just those cannons, and the timing of that attack with that many gateway units is kind of it's pretty typical of in general the like real players would move out with a gateway attack at that timing. So it feels really realistic. He would die to that, and he would die to it with real players. But part of the reason why they're playing a co-op stomp is because they want help in sort of those scenarios. They're not look so they're looking for help in the mid game in, in the mid game from teammates. Um, from teammates. Um, and and I think that that's really important also to look at is like why do they care so much about this sort of general thing that they're trying to do, and and something that you'll see too happens a lot is that generally if you get the same player twice, the second time that you get them, they tend to cut corners a lot more and have more realistic builds after they play with you once or twice if they realize that like you know what you're doing. They're a lot more willing to try and move out in the map and do something where normally they're not that willing. You can see that basically my win condition here was just to try to beat the army and win because I can't I can't harass him to death. I had to literally just have a lot of army this game. Where typically I like to spend a lot of time harassing. You can see what does he have? He has 4 Stargates. He didn't even saturate more workers because he doesn't hotkey his buildings. Um, and and so you have this thing where one of the things that Stormgate does right is that it has a way that people can play without hotkeying their buildings. But one of the things they do wrong is they don't realize that in general people don't use hotkeys. Um, in general, people prefer to click. Prefer to click instead of use hotkeys early on. Um, and I think that that's kind of going to be one of the last main points that I want to make. So I'll put that up here, just so you can kind of make that point. Um, is just that when you're forcing people to into the hotkey setups, I think in general it's kind of a bit of a misunderstanding about like what people tend to do right at the start. People want to just click on the units and move them around. They don't want to have to really click on a lot of the production things. That's part of the reason too why I think Stormgate is more popular in a lot of regards. I mean, excuse me, Stormgate's less popular in a lot of regards is because it doesn't respect the idea that people are wanting to just click on a few super units and watch everything kind of blow up. It thinks that everyone's trying to be a high level player, and people aren't trying to be high level doing this. And this is what 95% of your player base is literally what my teammate is here. Like literally 19 out of 20 people. If you go and you get them and they're gonna jump on an RTS game, play a few matches here and there. This is the experience. This is exactly what they're doing. They're not doing any of the fancy stuff that you have your hardcore PvP players doing. You can see that I'm even reacting to what I see. Right, neither one is expanded, so I'm rushing a tank, getting up a bunker, and it's not even super rushed, but it would get there before about 350 when the first attack would hit. Um, and and sorry about that. Uh, the cough. Um, and I think that it's kind of like you can see just in general how much my teammate has relied on me doing all of the work in the early mid game. Um, I can't take a third base because I look and he's literally not building any units. He's just like literally building like a stalker here, like two cannons there. He's building nothing. He's building like almost no workers, and yet he's playing. Yet he prefers to play on an elite AI because you know but because he wants to play against the big armies and fight them. And for me, it's I'm doing standard things that I think are fun as somebody who can do all those things. I like to try and put pressure on and be active on the map and be reactive and try and never put myself in a bad position. Um, where he you can see that he's not really doing much of anything. He's not scouting. He's not really there. He just built a few stalkers early, and he's willing to experiment a bit more because the last game went well. Which is the ideal scenario here. Uh, so just when people play with better players, um, uh, when when people have when people play with play with better teammates, they naturally play the game as it should be. And this is something else that I think is really important, kind of put down, because I think that I think that that's not as clear as it should be. Um, and this is kind of one of my last points that I'm trying to make with making this is that because he's played with me, now he has a few units where he didn't have it before. Here's a roughly typical timing window that people would attack relative to like a normal game. And you can see that like I'm playing to try and trap the armies, guarantee that I do damage. So here I'm trying to trap this army, um, get it from a good position. It's running away. There's like zero thought in his regard on how to really position or do things, but it's because he sees players like me do this that he'll in the long term have ideas of like what you should be doing in terms of the game. And so you'll see now that we've kind of got through to this point, I'm roughly maxed, and I'm across the map. You'll see that the last game he didn't move out at all, right? This game you'll see that he'll see me out on the map, and he will move out. And I'm making a small adjustment because they have air. I'm gonna go Vikings to deal with the air, because in my mind it's the easiest thing to do in these low pressure situations. I'm just trying to kill enough units that I can jump on this army. And here I am. I've kind of killed enough. I can jump on the army, and you can see here he comes. Right. He doesn't want to just sit in his base and have the same scenario happen last game, this game, where he just sat there and like nothing happened. So he's now out. He's coming out to kill things, and you'll see he at the end of the game, he'll kill almost as much as I have because I've lost a lot of units trying to do stuff, and he's basically lost nothing. And so from his perspective, he played a lot better in his mind this game than last game, and the stats and the score will show that. And the reality is yes, he absolutely played a bit more active. He tried to do things in general that last game he didn't feel confident enough to do. And because he played with me, he also has a replay to see sort of my builds and some of the more optimal ways to play, which means that he can gauge his build versus my build. Um, so I'm just gonna do just one last one last game here. And 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 most of it is just to show a sort of how my teammates play. So let's see. So I'm Protoss this time. I have a Zerg teammate. Um, so I scouted in this game, and I scouted that the Zerg took a base out front, and he saw because I scouted that base out front. His idea is I'm going to go attack it. And so when I looked at my teammate, I tried to play around it again. I went Forge first instead of doing like Blink first or something else because my teammate's going to attack. So I'm going to try and go for a hard timing so that when we attack, his decision to go attack is rewarded with us ending the game. So here he attacks. I'm going into just a very simple 6 gate Blink build. And and because he's playing, he's in general trying to be aggressive. I'm trying to just match his level of aggression so that by being aggressive and he's playing the game right, it turns into a stomp. And he'll get some practice using the units. I basically am trying to protect his lings is really what I'm doing. I'm not trying to actually end the game, which you can even see that with me taking a third. And then I decided to just go in the game because he's basically tried to end the game. Um, but yeah, so for trying to update the AI and trying to make the game more social, I think bot stomps are a great way to do that. I think that you have to understand some of the natural tendencies when people are new to RTS games, that they're just going to build their favorite units, that people want to have that feel that they're constantly doing stuff. They're not going to scout. They're generally going to build the simplest thing to do while they're playing. And that they're going to um, that they're basically just that there's two types of players. The hardcore players are going to play 2 versus AI, and they're going to try to min max and play well. And the 3 versus AI players, they like to be very turtly, build big walls, put things behind it. I think that it's really important to understand the difference in the players, to understand how you'd want to build sort of the bot stomp type maps. Also, I think in terms of programming the AI, if you can have a general look at a couple of the times where just are most common for games to end, and try and have builds that roughly match attacking at those times, not not that they're optimized, but just that they're attacking at roughly the same time that the multiplayer games roughly end. I think that that's really helpful, just to address it that way. When you have the casual players, you're gonna want to just build super units. So if you can try and really pin down what does a big flashy fight look like with lots of super units, that's really where it's going to make the game enjoyable. I also think that in general, if you can try to understand how to make the UI a bit more friendly to casual players, because they're not going to use your quick card to build things in general. They're literally going to always be clicking. Uh, so you might say, well, I'm gonna put Q as my quick build. If they can't click something on the screen, like Celestials doesn't have a place to build some of the buildings without clicking. If you don't realize that that they don't have something to click on the screen, it feels very unnatural, especially to the way that people feel. And the reason why you're putting bot stomps in the game is because people don't want pressure of trying to play really well. They're not trying to, be the next god player. Here on this guy, like I look, I identify immediately that the AI here is doing a 430 blink move out. So I'm gonna use some workers. I'm gonna try and body block with some workers, protect it. But like even there, I just tried to save my teammate's army is all I'm doing because he has no clue that this is a really bad situation that can happen. And but by playing with me, like he saw me move out, he's like, oh, I should be out on the map because my teammate is, but he doesn't realize that I'm just trying to scout to see if this move out's coming because I don't have a way to get information with a worker on Protoss at some point. So the whole purpose for me to do this is scouting, and the whole purpose for him is oh, my teammate's doing this, I'm going to go in the game. I'm trying to just bleed off some of the Zerg units because my teammate he in essence he lost most of his army. So I'm basically going to be playing like alone, one versus the AI. So I bleed off some of the units, and uh, I'm just trying to get roughly a steady state of units on the map. Trying to just keep everything kind of grouped up. He's wanting to move out, so I'm glad to oblige him. I'm willing to just fight with him, and so I'm kind of roughly seeing where he might fight. I'm trying to keep his tank safe, and do that from the high ground here. He's willing to attack there from the tank, so I'm going to try and bait the AI into his tanks, so that he gets lots of kills. Again, my teammate getting kills is really good for him to feel like he's playing well. I'm trying to for me, I'm chronoing the gates, so I sync my gates. So they're all coming up at the same time. It's like a thing of like ease of gameplay. If all my gates are synced, it just makes it easier for me to do a combined warp in rather than all different times. Again, I just keep pulling back into his tank, so he's getting lots of kills. And the mentality is that he's just trying to practice using his army, and that's why he's doing what he's doing. So anything that I can do that helps him get practice with the micro, you can tell that he's a higher APM player. He's probably around 80 or 90 APM. He could even be over 100. Um, so I just want to play around that style where he's that second tier player where he is hotkeying his buildings and he's trying to really learn how to use the units. I'm building a few units there to possibly support him, so a few zealots to frontline for him, but I'm not. But he doesn't push in any further, so I just stop. And I'm building Dark Templars because they kill the buildings a lot faster, and Immortals. And you can I take a look at his base. He still only has like 5 production structures or something off 2 bases. And this is another thing that's really common is just people tend to play. I'll put this as 0.10. People mostly play off 2 bases. People mostly play 2 base builds. Um, and that's kind of it. So that's kind of everything. Um, Sorry about the video, but yeah, that's everything. Thank you for watching.